lot of people are concerned if a vaccine comes out, is that going to hurt the gold price? Well, hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you for Arcadia Economics. Darn exciting as we wrap up another week of trading in the gold and silver markets. Here we see silver around 24.30, gold 1872, 1873. A lot going on in the world, and it is a pleasure to welcome my friend Stephen Swatton, K2 Gold, back onto the show. Stephen, you joined us earlier this year. It seems like it was only a couple months ago, but a lot has happened since then. Hopefully you can give an update. I know you've been doing some permitting and drilling as well. But before we start, great to see you again. How's everything been going for you?
Yeah, no, pretty good. I mean, when I last spoke to you, we were talking about the drilling program. Then we undertook the program, and I've been down in California 3 months. I just got back last week, so I'm doing my quarantine. But look, everything down there went as well as possibly could. I mean, the drill arrived a little late because of getting across the border, but the drilling went as planned, a little slower than we're anticipating, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because we intersected some rocks which needed a little bit more attention than we anticipated. But yeah, everything went well. And we're going to expect results in 2 weeks' time, 2 to 3 weeks' time.
Well, that's certainly a nice feeling, and we'll dig into that in a little bit and take a look at the results you had out recently. Although to get started, something that I know is on a lot of people's minds, they see gold price swinging back and forth. Mainstream media often says, well, gold is up or down today because of a vaccine for COVID. I don't know if CNBC necessarily has the inside scoop on that and with some of these headlines, but a lot of people are concerned if a vaccine comes out, is that going to hurt the gold price? What do you say, Stephen?
I would say not. I would say, in fact, the gold price is only going to go higher. I mean, what we have here is a knee-jerk reaction to some good news, and therefore everybody thinks that the world's going to get back to normal. My opinion, it's definitely not back to normal. In fact, it's business not as normal in our space right now. It's kind of interesting that the debts are increasing, the governments are in chaos. Nobody's really quite sure how to get out of the economic crisis here. And I think once everybody said, okay, we're going to get a virus, but not now, it's going to be sometime next year, they'll refocus on the economies and on the economic situation and realize, well, things aren't quite so good with all of this accumulated debt that each country's taken on. So therefore the gold price will increase. But, we're just prior to Christmas here. Everybody's lightening their load a little bit. Stocks are getting a little bit crushed as well. This is probably tax loss selling already taking place at the moment. So look, there's been a bit of a softening, but I have a feeling just after Christmas, you'll find that the gold price and the gold stocks will come roaring back.
Yeah, I can certainly see that happening. We did see gold cross 2,000. Pretty big event. I know someone was telling me the other day they're tired of hearing about, gold and silver are going to go up one day. I was thinking, gold was $35 50 years ago, crossed into all-time new territory, even in nominal terms. So, we've seen a lot of that rally already, which is, of course, is also good news for the gold and silver mining stocks.
Oh, totally. And look, I haven't got a crystal ball. In fact, I did have one on my desk here earlier, but I've just taken it down. But yeah, who knows what's going to happen? I just don't think things will get any worse from here. I think the markets are looking on the positive, but I just can't see any negativity because of all of the uncertainty that there is in the world. And let's face it, extremely uncertain. We don't even have a result for the presidential thing in US. And Europe, look at it. We're in Brexit right now with the debt that they're accumulating with the coronavirus sort of bailout. It's just incredible. Now the people in UK are considering that was a good thing pulling out of Brexit, whereas most of us thought it was probably a terrible thing before. Look, things aren't getting better. And so the gold price, I think, will be the only shining light in all this.
I like that. That was clever. Shining light, gold price. I see what you did there. Steven, I got another question. Maybe I know you're one of the smarter guests we have on here, so maybe you can explain this to me. But even let's say, all right, 5 agencies have started telling employees they could get COVID vaccine shot in 8 weeks. All right, let's say that happens, but here you see, oh, there's a nice little touch. JP Morgan, first bank to clue in that first quarter GDP might be smaller. I don't know how they figured that out. But here we have, even with the vaccine supposedly on the way, here's the Fed's balance sheet. And they're not talking about, the Fed's not saying, well, if a vaccine comes out, we don't need to print money. I mean, it's usually the politicians are stiff arming the Fed into printing money. And now it's the Fed, ironically enough, that's saying, hey, Congress, you got to pass this. So where does that leave it?
Well, in a worse state than it was before, doesn't it, Chris? I mean, it's almost like the perfect storm for a gold surge here. But like everybody's waiting for that to happen. But yeah, it's only going to lead to more strife. I mean, I've seen first things happen. The situation in my own country where I live in the Philippines. Things are getting terrible right now. I mean, there's certainly a squeeze on every single business. It's going to translate into almost every aspect of the way that we live. Gold price is one of the only beacons of light, which gives you some sort of value. I don't see it, Chris. I just think printing more money is just going to lead to disaster here.
Yeah, and I mean, on top of that, and again, I'm not saying these are good, but to the degree that trying to find at least financial solutions, at least you and I and others in this space, to these issues, and at least looking at what's happening, responding. Here, I'm seeing reports that New York City schools are closing down, hearing about, you mentioned some of the increased closures, not just in the US, but across different places. And gee, we saw what happened with the first COVID shutdown, let alone even the impact to the supply chain or where the mining industry gets shut down, what that does to the price. But that means if things are going to get shut down, it's almost a guarantee they're going to be printing more money, not less.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally, Chris. I mean, it is a pretty dire situation. Looking forward, I don't really have a lot of, we had a little bit of a discussion offline before we came on here, and I think that we've all got to tighten our purse strings and hunker down, and the next 6 months are going to be pretty grim.
Yeah, although, like you mentioned, one of the havens within that would be, fortunately, the gold and silver stocks. I mean, I don't know, maybe.
Well, we are the agents of doom, aren't we? In our side of our business, when everyone else is doing well, we're doing badly. When everyone else is doing badly, we seem to be doing better. Yeah, certainly there's a few people have made some serious gains in the last 6 months. Hopefully K2 is going to be the next one.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that, because I think people wonder, does this mean the world is or isn't going well? I mean, at least investing, to me, it's like we prepare for what we see coming, which is why I'm grateful that there are gold stocks out there. Quite a year, as you see here on the chart. Here's the GDX. Back in March was down at $23, peaked around 44, 45. A lot of the companies, all right, gold isn't still above $2,000, but a lot of companies making a lot of money. I think, do you get the feeling the market is still digesting just what the margins are, even with $1,900 gold?
Yeah, totally. And we will see, in my opinion, a certain amount of consolidation, but I'm not seeing the majors still stepping up and taking the juniors, and the juniors, the mid-sized companies then preying on the juniors themselves. So us at the pointy end at the bottom there, I mean, we're still not seeing, I'm still seeing value when I'm looking at, other acquisitions that we may or may not do in K2. There's still good value to be had. So that means to say that the prices haven't increased hugely. So therefore, the majors themselves are not really elbowing in to take some of the mid-sized producers. So there's still some value. So yeah, things have tailed off a bit. The M&A situation, Chris, has come off somewhat. There's not as much M&A activity as I expected there would be. The margins, I have a feeling the guys like Newmont are trying to still cut their costs, have an eye on the future. But you know, I see places that are in, if you like, some of the more challenged areas of the world are still unloved. You know, as parts of the Africa and parts of other parts of the world where I've had some experience before, they're not seeing any joy at all. The big guys are not going into some of the more remote areas. They're still sticking around in the old mining districts of before, trying to create some sort of value. So the trickle-down effect is not happening down to our level, the junior level, in my opinion.
And what do you think it is going to take to change that?
I think a couple of big deals. It would be one of the majors taking out one of the mid-sized companies, or, you know, one of the juniors having a really big discovery. I mean, I was around for the Boise Spade discovery in Canada when it happened, and I just saw what happened to the junior market. It was astronomical. When a junior has a big discovery, it's huge. I mean, when I was working in HP for a number of years, we did have a couple of big discoveries, but, you know, in terms of the market, they didn't care less. I mean, it was insignificant. It was a rounding error on BHP, but it would have made a huge difference to the market here. But if a junior makes a good discovery, you know, we see what's happening in Eastern Canada here. We see what's happening in Nevada with some of the properties down there. And I would argue ours is one of the better ones. But, you know, it's in California, so we've been discounted to some extent, which I think is unfair. But, you know, one of the juniors has a big discovery, everybody wakes up and says, hey, hang on a minute here, there is value to be had. The moment that, you know, I haven't seen a large discovery in the last 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, although you were as part of the Discovery Group, the umbrella of companies of which KT fits under, you're certainly associated with one that a lot of our viewers are quite familiar with, Great Bear Gold. What would you say now, kind of having followed that for a while and seen the way things went? What have you learned from that, or what can you take away from there and say, if I look for this in the future, could be a good metric?
Do you mean in terms of the type of asset he's looking at, or keep
could be
away?
Type of asset, or really anything that just investors can take away in terms of how to find the next company like that?
Yeah, Chris has persistence. Chris has a dogged attitude towards exploration, and he just doesn't give up. I mean, he's one of these guys that if I wrestled him, he would just keep fighting, right? So he's a real fighter. He found something where everybody said you couldn't really find it. And in fact, I don't know if you recall, he actually has owned the property that I'm working on right now. And I would say that if somebody says to you, you know what, you can't be done, you look at it and you say, well, what are the unlocking mechanisms for this? Now, the asset that I'm looking at has been worked by Newmont, and it's been looked at by new BHP, 35 drill holes put into it. I'm not sort of going to hard it up. The difficulty with where we are is it's the California thing. Everybody says, oh, California, you can't get anything done in California. Well, Equinox just poured gold 2-3 weeks ago. Things do get done. It may take a little bit slower. But Chris looked at this and he said, you know what? The biggest problem I have is I don't have the capital to unlock it. So the unlocking mechanism and where he is with Great Bear was that everybody said the rocks were wrong. And he said, well, hang on. Him and Bob got together and said, no, I don't think they are. And they went back through and they had this amazing discovery. So it's to have the conviction in your own, you know, if your own insight. So I went down to California simply because it's not the geology that's the difficult bit here. It's trying to convince people that California can be won over. And the world is a bunch of villages. The world is a village. Every different area, even within California, there's bits of California that are easier than others. I've realized that the area where I am, if you get the local industry leaders and the local population on side, your life is so much easier. And I've spent the last 3 months doing that. That's the unlocking mechanism. So going back to your question, how was Chris being successful? He just followed through on what he said. And I'm trying to do, and ours, it's more of the softer issues, trying to make sure that what we're doing is environmentally sensitive, sensitive to the First Nations, the tribes, and also the business owners see, okay, there is an opportunity here to have an industry other than tourism, because tourism is near enough 80% of the revenue here, and obviously it's been absolutely hammered. The local business owner that I spoke to last time, who has the largest hotel in town, she's on 50% of the number of beds were taken up this year. And look what's going to happen going forwards. Going to be more, it's a seasonal thing that they're in, and we're now going into the winter season, which is even a quieter time for her. So yeah, I mean, it's just having some sort of conviction and following through. Look, Chris has had a lot of failures. I've had a lot of failures, but eventually, if you keep persisting, you will win.
Yeah, I loved when you mentioned that last time we talked and again today, because I know in today's world, it's like someone has to have perfect everything versus really how do you learn from these things that we go through, and, you know, can you see something differently than someone else has? I like that you've also been applying that. And Stephen, you've talked a bit about it today, but again, here we saw the approval. Last time when you were on the show, you were trying to get the permit. So you've gotten the permit. Now here it is, phase 1 drill program.
Oh
If
yeah.
you could give us an update, any details that that people want to be well served to be aware
All
of.
right. Yeah, I'm not going to repeat what I said last time about, you know, the extent of the mineralization. It's there. It's on the eastern side of the property. But what's one really interesting thing for us right now is that we've actually discovered an area between the western side, which seems to have some more base metal affinities, and the eastern side. In the middle, we did some exploration in what would be considered a pretty remote area. I mean, it would be a 6-hour hike to get in from the eastern side, maybe 4 hours from the western side on arduous terrain. Right in the middle there, we found some old prospects. And in those old prospects, we saw upside down in a can, we saw a little piece of paper, 1912 exploration permit from 1912. And we've been panning some gold there. And it's kind of an interesting, nobody's ever before seen gold. And we think we might have actually panned some flakes out of this showing up there, which is huge for us. That means to say that the gold, the mineralization extends from the eastern right through to the western side. Now, obviously, we took 400 samples in this area across a bunch of different sites. And look, when we get the results back, I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about that. But I'm quite optimistic that not only in the area where BHP and Newmont drilled, we had something, but in a huge area which would be spanning, I'm guessing, about 3 kilometers by 1 kilometer. There's another zone that we only had one sample from SSR in the whole database that we had, which was from 1983 in this area. Well, if that comes back with some interest, then it's a completely different kettle of fish. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, well, it's always fun hearing the emotions that go on as you sit there and wait, but you keep doing what you do each day. And we'll look forward to hearing how that goes. Although, Stephen, before we wrap up, could you let folks know how they can get more information, stay tuned so that they can be posted as soon as there are developments, and stay ahead, miles ahead of Wall Street, I might add.
Yeah, go on the website, www.k2gold.com, or we do have a subsidiary in the US, which is a more local based one called Mojave Precious Metals. And that's the one where we sometimes post more of the local, not issues, it's more of the local news that we're putting out about the programs that we're running, because we're doing some social programs as well. So either of those two, or to call Dustin Zinger at our address in Vancouver.
And we will have all the information in the description field below. So, Stephen, appreciate you joining me again. It's fun to catch up as always. Great to see, that also you're not just talking about people following through on what they say, but it's nice here. Saw a couple months ago, and great to see that you have been doing that. And we'll look forward to catching up again soon.
Thanks very much, Chris. Great to see you again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And folks at home, Stephen did record a profile video a couple months back. Find out more about the company. That is coming your way now.